Hello, my name is Philippe Girard, a professor in the history department at McNeese State University.
And I'm Rachel Zachary. I'm from the political science department at McNeese. Welcome to Your Grandma Rocks, where we explore the lives of famous women in history.
Welcome and bienvenue à nos amis francophones. Vous écoutez la radio de l'Université McNeese.
On the program today, music and history, as we retrace the life of a remarkable woman.
Her name was Linda Lovelace.
Oh, I know her. She was that 19th century mathematician who was a pioneer in computer programming.
You're thinking of Ada Lovelace. Linda Lovelace played in the movie Deep Throat.
Oh, okay.
She had a remarkable life as a porn actress and as an anti-pornography activist, which will allow us to explore the rise and the fall of the adult film industry in the 1970s.
You may want to get the kids off the radio for this one. I think there's something more appropriate playing on PBS Kids right now.
We'll try to keep it clean.
Well, almost. Along the way, we'll sample some groovy songs that are vintage 1970s.
We'll start with the Prince of Motown himself, Marvin Gaye, and Let's Get It On from 1973.
Get it on, sugar, let's get it on. Ooh, we're all sensitive people with so much to give. Understand me, sugar, since we got to be here. Let's live. I love you. There's nothing wrong with me loving you, baby, no, no. And giving yourself to me can never be wrong if the love is true. Oh, baby. Ooh, don't you? Life can be. I'm asking you, baby, to get it on with me. I ain't gonna worry, I ain't gonna push, I won't push you, baby. Come on, baby, stop beating around the bush. Hey, let's get
Welcome back to Your Grammar Rocks. We just listened to Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. I am Philippe Girin.
And I'm Rachel Zachary. Today we're exploring the life of an adult movie star, Linda Lovelace, who, as you can guess, that was not her real name.
No, she was born with the more boring name of Linda Borman in New York City in 1949.
Her upbringing was surprisingly straight-laced. Her dad was a policeman, her mom was very strict, and she attended Catholic school. Her dream jobs, flight attendant or Catholic nun.
Wow. In fact, she was so prudish as a teenager that her dates nicknamed her Miss Holly Holly because she wouldn't let them get too frisky.
Well, most of them at least. At the age of 20, she gave birth to a child whom she gave up for adoption.
She suffered other distressing events during that period of her life.
Yes, she got involved in a severe traffic accident, and as a result, she had to receive a blood transfusion. But blood was not properly screened, so she contracted hepatitis. She eventually needed a liver transplant.
It was during that vulnerable time that she met Chuck Traynor, who became her boyfriend and then her husband.
He was the one who introduced her to the adult movie industry.
I always wondered how you go from being the girl next door to being a porn actress. I mean, what makes you cross that threshold from a Catholic school to the sex industry?
In her case, it was definitely Chuck Traynor. Quote, "When I first dated Linda," he explained, "she was so shy it shocked her to be nude in front of a man. I created Linda Lovelace."
So should we see him as a libertine, a kind of mentor figure who helped Linda Borman overcome her conservative upbringing and find her sensual side?
I wouldn't go that far. We've met some pretty kinky men on the show, like William Marston, the creator of Wonder Woman. But Chuck Traynor was something else. He took Linda Borman down a very dark path sometimes, apparently against her will. Her story may look fun and sexy on the surface, but as you dig deeper, you uncover a really sad tale of violence and oppression. The only reason she became a world-renowned star is because she was a vulnerable woman under the spell of a violent man.
Before we get to her breakout role, let's sample another sexy 70s classic. Donna Summer, Hot Stuff.
Wow, just where did you find these songs?
That one was featured on the Full Monty. Plenty of movie soundtracks on the show today.
Ah, okay. I thought these cheesy 70s songs were part of your personal collection.
I'll take the fifth on that one.
Welcome back. I'm Rachel Zachary, co-host of Your Grandma Rocks, your favorite woman's history show on KBYS.
Et je suis Philippe Girin. Vous écoutez la radio de l'Université McNeese.
You just listened to Hot Stuff by Donna Summer.
Today we're exploring the life of the actress Linda Borman, better known as Linda Lovelace.
Before our break, we followed her from conservative Catholic schoolgirl all the way to her marriage with Chuck Traynor, who introduced her to various unorthodox sexual practices.
And I mean unorthodox. Fellatio, orgies, exhibitionism, prostitution, and eventually a career as an actress in adult movies.
All this was keeping with the times. By the early 1970s, the sexual revolution was in full sway.
But the adult film industry was still in its infancy. Pornographic movies were typically short 8mm clips shown in louche theaters controlled by the mob. Budgets were small, storylines non-existent, and adult cinema was still a niche industry.
Louche and niche. I like how you always find a way to put the French word here and there.
Touché.
All right, back to the adult film industry. It completely changed in 1972 with the release of Deep Throat. The film's budget was $25,000, which was small by Hollywood standards, but considerable for an adult film. Most importantly, it was a feature-length movie with a real plot.
Well, a plot. That movie only stood out because the standards of the industry were so low to begin with. The acting and the camera work were pretty horrendous, and the plot kind of ludicrous. Linda Lovelace played a woman unable to achieve orgasm until a doctor discovers that her clitoris is located inside her throat. Then she finally finds fulfillment by practicing the kind of aesthetic fellatio that gave the movie its title.
Come on, not everything about the movie is bad. It has a good soundtrack and a few good one-liners. Remember, "Mind if I smoke while you're eating"?
That's my favorite line. It's difficult to explain what's so funny on the radio, so you'll have to watch the opening scene to get it.
But despite its flaws, the movie was a huge success for a hardcore film. It played for 10 years straight in the Pussycat chain for adult theaters and earned a total of $600 million. Not bad for a $25,000 movie.
Supposedly that made it the highest grossing movie ever shot in Florida. The actual figure is disputed because the mafia apparently inflated the proceeds of the movie as a way to launder some dirty money. But there's no doubt that the movie was a huge hit.
It brought porn out of the filthy peep shows and into a mainstream audience. Even Vice President Spiro Agnew saw it, at the house of Frank Sinatra, no less.
Spiro Agnew and Frank Sinatra. I would have loved to be there, but not everyone was pleased. One actor from the movie, Harry Reams, was even sentenced in court for obscenity.
Hollywood stars like Jack Nicholson and Warren Beatty came to the tribunal to support Reams. He eventually prevailed on appeal, and in 1973, the Supreme Court made it more difficult to prosecute pornographers with the ruling Miller versus California.
That movie and that cool decision launched what came to be known as porno chic, the period in the 1970s when higher quality adult films reached large mainstream audiences. Movies like Behind the Green Door, The Devil and Miss Jones, and the opening of Misty Beethoven.
Let's not forget Last Tango in Paris with Marlon Brando.
I was actually trying to forget that one. After that movie, it took me several years before I was able to enjoy butter again.
After making Deep Throat, Linda Lovelace became a household name. She appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and went on to star in various films like Deep Throat 2 and Linda Lovelace for President.
When the Watergate scandal broke out, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein even named their secret sauce Deep Throat in a winking reference to the porn sensation.
Over the years, several songs also paid tribute to Linda Boardman. There was a song Linda Lovelace by David Allan Coe, as well as Linda Lovelace for President by Mark with a C.
But the lyrics of the first song are way too graphic and sexist for this show, and the second one is much too long. So we'll go instead with one of the songs from the movie that made her famous. Here is She's Gotta Have It from the soundtrack of Deep Throat.
When she wakes up in the morning, she'll make it hard for you with just one smile. Starry-eyed and yawning, she knows what's coming in a little while. So get it up, yeah, she's got to have it. So get it up, she's got to have it. She's got to have it. When she looks into the mirror, she sees herself and knows she's so fine. Satisfaction's growing nearer. She'd even make the devil come on time. So get it up, yeah, she's got to have it. She's got to have it.
Bonjour à tous and welcome back to Your Grammar Rocks on KBYS. Je m'appelle Philippe Girard.
And I'm Rachel Zachary. We just listened to She's Gotta Have It from the soundtrack of the movie Deep Throat.
Today we're covering the life of Linda Lovelace, who became an overnight star in 1972 after starring in that movie.
Deep Throat was a big part of the sexual revolution that transformed sexual norms in the Western world in the 1970s.
In 1970, just 2 years before the movie came out, fellatio was still so controversial that a British court went after a publisher just for publishing a novel entitled The Mouse.
Skip forward 40 years, and nowadays, and no one will bat an eye at the sitcom makes a risque joke about oral sex. In 2008, Dutch public television even aired a full version of the movie Deep Throat on national television.
Well, the Dutch are famously committed to freedom of all kinds, but that movie features some real hardcore scenes, so personally I would not go as far as showing it on public television. I'd rather stick with Barney and stuff.
That does seem like a bit much. Linda Lovelace initially supported the normalization of porn and wrote 2 autobiographies to cast a positive light on the industry. When asked to explain why she became a porn star, she said, "I did it because I love it."
But then, in 1976, just when she was about to star in the French erotic series Emmanuel, she did a complete 180 on the topic.
Quote, "God changed my life," she now said. She wouldn't do any more nude scenes. She even complained that the classic Greek statue on the set had exposed breast.
The real story of her love-hate relationship with pornography only came out bit by bit over the next few years, with the publication of 2 more autobiographies entitled Ordeal in 1980 and Out of Bondage in 1986.
In the book, she revealed that her husband, Chuck Trainer, had regularly beat her up while shooting Deep Throat and even threatened her with a gun.
So the answer to my earlier questions, why would she appear in hardcore films, may simply be because she was forced to.
Exactly. Quote, "When you see the movie Deep Throat," she testified, "in 1986, you were watching me being raped. It is a crime that a movie is still showing. There was a gun in my head the entire time."
The other racy movie of 1972, Last Tango in Paris, also came under fire.
Yes, the main actress, Maria Schneider, who was just 19 at the time, only learned on the day of the shooting about the notorious scene involving a butter stick. Uh-oh. She went along after being pressured by the director, but she later described the shooting of the scene as non-consensual.
Linda Lovelace also claimed that Traynor had forced her to appear in horrible short films involving bestiality and golden showers.
Golden showers?
I'm not going there. You'll have to ask our president what it means.
Oh, I see. Well, at any rate, Traynor emphatically denied that he had used any violence, as did some of the actors. But other people who had been present during the shooting of Deep Throat confirmed that they heard beatings in the hotel room at night, and that she frequently had bruises on her legs the next day on the set.
Then, people uncovered 2 old movie reels entitled Dogorama and Peace Orgy, which confirmed that she had indeed been forced to star in some really hardcore short films. So that part of her testimony, for sure, was accurate.
Whatever the truth may be, in the 1980s, Linda Lovelace went from being a star in the porn industry to a leading critic of it. This made her an ally of feminist activists like Gloria Steinem.
We did a show about Gloria Steinem. She is a fascinating character.
Like many feminists, Gloria Steinem was of two minds when she came to the sexual revolution. She welcomed the loosening of societal norms, as well as the earlier access of pill and abortion, but she saw hardcore pornography as degrading to women.
Especially when it involved vulnerable young women like Linda Lovelace.
So the adult film industry went from being an era of porno chic to a popular backlash led on the Unlikely Coalition, conservative Christians and liberal feminists.
Those two are not often on the same side.
The industry also went through a tough time in the 1980s because of the appearance of the VHS tapes.
With the appearance of the VHS tape, the era of big-budget movies shown in theaters came to an end. Instead, the industry shifted to nonsensical sex scenes released straight to video.
Like the old peep shows of yore, but meant for home viewing.
Exactly. Then another huge change took place in the 2000s with the advent of the internet. It made porn easier to access than ever, but also free, which completely wrecked the industry.
There's a great movie on the rise and fall of the adult industry in the 70s and 80s, Boogie Nights.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite movies.
It has only great actors in it. Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
It's like a who's who of Hollywood. That movie does a great job of showing how liberating and fun the sexual revolution was, but also the human toll that the adult industry exacted on its participants.
And it has a great soundtrack.
It does. We'll now listen to Brand New Key by Melanie from the soundtrack of the movie Boogie Nights.
I rode my bicycle past your window last night. I roller skated to your door at daylight. It almost seems like you're avoiding me. I'm okay alone, but you got something I need. Well, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key. I think that we should get together and try them out, you see. I've been looking around a while. You got something for me. Oh, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key. I ride my bike, I roller skate, don't drive no car. Don't go too fast, but I go pretty far. For somebody who don't drive, I've been all around the world. Some people say I done all right for a girl. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I asked your mother if you were at home. She said yes, but you weren't alone. Oh, sometimes I think that you're avoiding me. I'm okay alone, but you got something I need. Well, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key. I think that we should get together and try them out, you see. La 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 la. Oh, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key.
That was Brand New Key by Melanie. You're listening to Your Grandma Rocks on KBYS. I'm Rachel Zachary.
Et je suis Philippe Girard. Today we're retracing the life of Linda Lovelace, the biggest porn star of the 70s and the leading anti-pornography activist of the 1980s.
By that point, she was trying to rebuild her life. She retired from the adult industry and divorced her first husband, who had pushed her to become a porn actress in the first place.
That's how she described her dream life. Quote, a job, a warm home, kids, some peace and quiet, unquote.
She got that initially. She remarried, she had 2 kids, and she settled into a semi-normal middle-class life.
Then her life took another downward turn. She divorced again and then endured some health problems that forced her to have a liver transplant and a double mastectomy. Money was also short, so she lived off various odd jobs.
Wait, how could she go from a star that grossed $600 million and be poor?
Well, she had been paid a set fee, not a share of the proceeds for that movie. She only got $1,250 for her big role in Deep Throat, which her first husband, Chuck Traynor, apparently took from her anyway.
So nothing then?
Nothing. In fact, she was so short on cash that she did yet another U-turn on pornography. Late in her life, she appeared on the cover of a porn magazine and she agreed to sign Deep Throat memorabilia for money.
So we're back to our initial trope. The porn actress is a vulnerable woman desperate for money.
Exactly.
What a sad life.
It ended abruptly at the age of 53 when in 2002 she was involved in a terrible car accident in Colorado.
She was not lucky with cars. A first car accident early in her life led to that liver damage.
That one was even worse. A few weeks later, she was taken off life support.
Her first husband, the controversial Chuck Traynor, died in a heart attack just a few months later.
She's remained somewhat of a cult icon ever since. In 2013, she was the subject of the movie Lovelace, starring Amanda Seyfried and Peter Sarsgaard. But the movie itself was not that great and it flopped at the box office.
So our listeners should watch Boogie Nights instead.
Yes, or the movie Kinsey with Liam Neeson, which is also a great movie about the promise and pain of the sexual revolution.
Time for another song?
Yes, since we're talking about Chuck Traynor, a man who, quote, went through a million girls and, quote, didn't care about how much they cried, we'll listen to Fooled Around and Fell in Love by Elvin Bishop.
Love that song. Wasn't it on the soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes, but it was also featured in the movie Lovelace.
I must have been through about a million girls.
Bienvenue à tous, je m'appelle Philippe Girard.
And I'm Rachel Zachary. We just listened to Elvin Bishop's Fooled Around and Fell in Love. This is Your Grandma Rocks on KBYS, a show about remarkable women from centuries past.
Today we retrace the life of Linda Lovelace, star of the 1970s adult movie industry, anti-pornography activist in the 80s, beaten wife, and tragic and complicated soul all around.
That was quite a journey. We're glad we get to share it with you.
Quelle vie incroyable, en effet.
The program has been funded by a Juliet Hardner Grant for Women in the Humanities. For more information on how to help finance fellowships at McNeese, contact the Foundation at 337-475-5588.
This program was also sponsored by the History Department at McNeese. To apply for a degree in history or other fields, contact the McNeese Admissions Office at 337-475-5504.
Thank you and goodbye.
Merci, au revoir.